my way now. I'm on 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 my way now. I don't want to be dragged in a box. I just wanna go my own way. 'Cause I am on my way. I am on my way. I am on my way. I am on my way.
Welcome back, guys. So it's extremely hard to get audio in here because this coffee shop is loud, but it's my favorite one here in Houston at Siphon Coffee. A lot of you have been asking me about guest check-in protocol, like how do I check in guests? And a lot of Airbnb hosts, like the gurus online, said this is how I check in guests. Not that simple. They likely only have like 1 to 5 properties max, and they can do the same exact thing at all their properties. But we have like 5 or 6 different ways we check in guests because we got like 47 properties, right? So let's break this down. I'm going to teach you the many ways I check in guests, how I don't utilize all the tools for guest check-in. There are other ways that you can, so we're going to cover it all. I'm going to jump right in. We're going to make this fun. So let's get to it. All right, so welcome back, Airbnb family. As I said, I'm in Houston. I'm moving a property today, so I've got to scoot soon, but I want to get this video done for you. So long story short, I wanted to be able to give you a video about how to check in guests because check-in is one of the big 5 things that you get reviewed on, but it's just not that simple, and I needed to dedicate some time to organize this for you. So first, I'm going to talk to you about the many ways you can check in a guest. I'm going to give you examples of those, how we utilize about half of them at all of our different properties, and I'm going to talk to you about how to assess which check-in method is best for your building. Got it? Okay. So check-in methods, common ones. If you own a property, you can put a smart lock on the front of it where somebody uses an app like August or types in a keypad on the door and they just get right in the front door. Or you can hang a lockbox from the door and they just type in the lockbox stuff and they get right in. That stuff's pretty easy, right? Usually. Now, some buildings, though, have an outer perimeter like a fence or a parking lot that you have to get into first. So you're going to have to use like a keypad to get them into that outer perimeter or hang a lockbox to give them a fob on the outer perimeter. And then getting into the door is another one. But you can just kind of repeat the same processes otherwise. If you don't own the property and you're renting, you can't modify the door. So you can't add a smart keypad. You might be able to add August on the back, like a bolt lock that kind of goes on the back of the door, but then they'll have to download an app or something like that. Some buildings, they can walk right up to concierge and say, hey, I'm here to check in to, apartment number blank. And that concierge will call you, or you can send them an email ahead of time and let them know the guest is coming to give them permission to come on up. So all these are 24-hour possible. If you send an email to concierge ahead of time, somebody comes at 3 o'clock in the morning, they'll be like, oh yeah, we were expecting you, go on up. The keypads, the smart locks, all that stuff can be done 24 hours. So our oldest property in Houston, there's a keypad on the outer perimeter to get to the front door. And what we do is we've got this number where it calls my phone normally, but I wrote a software where it calls my computer or my server, and my server unlocks the door 24/7, right? So there's 24-hour check-in outer perimeter. They can then get to the front door, and they can use a lockbox to get the key. I don't use August or a smart system because they'd have to download an app, and it's just an extra layer of complexity. And then if they don't know how to use it, they'll try to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning, and if you don't answer, you can't fix it, they're locked outside, right? We used to leave the keys inside the apartment, but the problem is, if you leave the keys inside the apartment with the door unlocked, which is super easy for the guest, one, if you don't get booked all the time, the door could be unlocked for multiple days, and that's like a theft risk. Otherwise, if maintenance works on your apartment, they will lock your keys inside the apartment. Also not good. So I recommend use lockboxes on the outside of the door whenever possible, just to make sure your keys are always outside of the listing. Believe it or not, this was something that we had to deal with. And making sure that the key box on the outside or the keypad is 24-hour, also important. So another one of our properties, though, the keypad system isn't good enough. We can get them into the garage, but there's this little hallway that keeps them from being able to get to the front door. So we use a lockbox again, but we hang it in the garage so they can get their key and then get to their front door from there. Make sense? Easy. Third one, they can't even get into the outer perimeter without a key, and there is no keypad. So we had to get permission to hang a lockbox on the outer perimeter fence next to a pedestrian entrance. And then from there, they grab that key and they can move on with their day. Those three. Another one in Dallas, we don't have permission to hang a lockbox. They can't get in from the outer perimeter. There's no way to get them a key or to get them inside at all. So we have to use a concierge, and that concierge is holding on to bags. So we give that guest instructions: come pick up the envelope marked XYZ apartment number at this one address, then go nearby to your real address and check in with your stuff. Now, this is a little extra complexity because they have to go one place to go to the other. This is how we checked in Prague. And when you have an Uber or something, it does cost money to check in and check out. So you can offer to meet the guest in person and give them their keys during regular hours, and then have the off-site pickup as your after-hours solution. But of course, now you have to have staff or you have to be available. Some of you, this isn't a big deal. But the moral of the story here is that you need to make it so that way your guests can easily check in and you can be guest-focused on the check-in. So when you're shopping around for properties, what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what is the easiest way for the guest to get in this property, right? If they showed up at the property, what's the shortest path to the door, right? What's the least amount of complexity to your front door? Try to get permission to check in the guest in the ideal format by working with your property. And if you can't, then go for a plan B, right? If you have to do the offsite key check-in and you've got a way to do it nearby, good. But if none of these work for you, then that property may not be right for you, and you should just move on and get a different listing somewhere else, somewhere that's more achievable, because guest check-in is a big deal, right? It's one of the main 5. Your 5-star reviews are for check-in, for location, for communication, for cleanliness, overall value. And if any of these aren't 5 stars, it could cost you a Superhost rating. And Superhost had a huge SEO boost on Airbnb platform. They even have a Stay with Superhost section. And if you're not a Superhost, you don't get to go in that section. Sorry. So I will be doing a future video on how to get a 5-star review in all the categories. So just take this as a breakdown of one, that this is super important. So if you, there's also other ones. Like they even have an other category where you can have do pretty much do anything you want and list it under other. But keypads, lockboxes, meet with the host, meet with staff. These are your main ones. So if you are a homeowner, you can add smart technology. I just really recommend not using something like August where you have to download an external application. It just makes it too complex for guests. So with that said, any specific questions you want me to break down, kind of a special circumstance for you, leave it in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Thanks for watching Airbnb Automated. I'm going to go move a property now, so I'm going to scoot. I'll see you on the other side.